Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Grappling Monthly. I am big time blessed and happy. What a privilege to have Professor Alberto Crane here join us. Excited to get into it, get to know you a little bit, chat with you for the next hour or so. As always, guys, if you can like and subscribe, if you like the content that's coming out of Grappling Monthly, please do so. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, it all helps. Make sure that we get out there and get some more jiu-jitsu content.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. All right.
Let's do it.
Very blessed, very happy to have you join me on the podcast. There's a lot of history in jiu-jitsu in Southern California, and you're a big part of it. So I'm excited to get to know you a little bit. Maybe we could start just, at the beginning, like how you came across jiu-jitsu and what got you through those doors the first time, and where'd you go from there?
So originally I'm from New Mexico, and I've lived in a few different places. When I was a kid, I lived in Germany, went to German schools. Yeah, most of my childhood actually, and then high school I lived in New York, and then after high school, my family's from New Mexico, so I always went back and forth from there. I worked at this restaurant, this fine dining restaurant. Amal Easton was there. He has the Easton BJJ. He's one of Renzo Gracie's black belts. So he was like a big brother to me. And he was working at the restaurant that I was working at. And they after about 6 months, there was a few of them that were training jiu-jitsu. They convinced me to do a class.
Nice.
And he was like the bar manager. I was 18, like right after high school. And so my friend armbarred me like 10 times. I couldn't believe it. And so I was like, let's go again. And I couldn't believe it, So I was like, I have to learn this. Nice. And I didn't see the UFCs yet. I didn't see any of that. And so I just loved the way it made me feel. And I loved the training. And so that's how I started. And then, of course, later on, I saw the UFC. Saw Royce Gracie do his thing. Yep. And then I just got more and more immersed. And then Amal Easton moved to Brazil. So maybe about 6 months after that, he moved to Brazil. And I wasn't sure which way I was going to go in life. And I was in school. I just wasn't sure, right? And I was maybe even going to go in the Navy. I thought I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Our first jiu-jitsu coach was a Navy SEAL. And so he went back in. And then Amal came back from Brazil, and so I went that way. I got more focused on jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Basically, he took me to some tournaments. We started training in his garage every day. He was showing me all these different things that he was learning, in Rio de Janeiro when he went down there for 6 months. And then I was like, okay, I want to do this, And so I went to a couple tournaments here in LA, actually. Nice. And then soon after that, about 6 months after, I moved to Brazil. I went there for like 5 months the first time. I kind of started on the path. But the big change for me where I got laser-like focused was I read this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yeah.
Familiar, yeah.
Yeah. And so it talks about, writing your goals down and being very specific, And so I wrote down my goals. I wanted to be one of the best and all that. And so that's what I did. I set my goals. And then I became laser-like focused. I surrounded myself with those types of people. And so part of that was moving to Brazil at the time. That's where it was at. That was the mecca of jiu-jitsu. Now it's kind of become SoCal. Yeah. 100%. With the world championship being here and kind of all the best guys are here now. But back in those days, like the stuff was there, Yeah. To be the best or to learn like the most cutting edge things, you had to go there. Of course, now things are different too with technology. Yeah, we have YouTube, we have streaming services. You learn stuff like right away if you pay attention, right? To things if you want to get the knowledge, right?
Yeah. That's so cool. So that decision, that really was kind of like a inflection point, right? Where you might have gone to the Navy, decide, you know what, I'm gonna go this jiu-jitsu route. And you ended up living in Brazil. I'm going to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, in a period where there wasn't probably many other Americans living and training in Brazil doing jiu-jitsu, or were there?
No, for sure. I was a pioneer, right? Americans going down there, right, to live. So Amal Easton was one of those, right? And then there was just a couple, right? And I ended up being Gracie Barra is my lineage, right? Right. And so I was like I was the first American black belt, but there were not too many like foreigners, right? Yeah. Down there at the time, doing what I was doing. I mean, it was a different time, right? Yeah. And, back in those days too, the money, the dollar was like 1 to 1. So it was expensive too. Anyway, it was a different time, and it was definitely out there, right? It didn't make sense. Like there was no future. There was no, you're gonna ask me probably about the school and those kinds of things, but there wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna have a school, I'm gonna have a business, I'm gonna make a living from it. I just followed my heart, and stuck with it. Set my goals high and stuck with it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into, legacy and all the different locations, how the business works, and then like how to get in touch and how to start training here. But for sure. So like, I mean, what you're saying really resonates with me. Following your heart is something that, is not always easy. Probably most of the time it's actually quite hard, right? There's a lot of pressure maybe to go to like a 9 to 5. Military is also a good, option. But yeah, so I'm curious, like, if you're probably one of the only gringos, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, they call me Gringo.
Yeah.
My nickname, even Little Gringo, Gringuinho.
For real?
Yeah.
Nice. How was the reception there from like other Brazilians and other people training?
So in Rio de Janeiro, there was some other foreigners coming in, and some people were like, you have these foreigners coming in trying to learn our jiu-jitsu, our martial art, to maybe use it against us, whatever, right? And I think that was one of the reasons why I ended up moving to Belo Horizonte.
Okay.
Because Draculino was there. I met him, and he was just starting out his gym. It was only white belts and some blue belts. Like
No way.
Professor Edson was like one of those blue belts, and it was he was starting out, and he really wanted to basically, with his the first line of his guys, he wanted to prove that he was a good coach, right? And so I really felt at home there. I really felt like welcome, at the school. And so I ended up choosing and moving to Belo Horizonte at his school, and his school ended up becoming one of the best in the world, just one school alone, right?
Nice.
We won a lot of like team trophies, team championships, talk about, world champions, like, all day long, right?
Yeah.
So he's the kind of world renowned, and it all started from those beginnings, right?
Nice.
A small little space, and just my intuition, right? Like I like it here. I like how he teaches. I like the environment. I wasn't just a number. I was not a number, but I wasn't just like a gringo,
Yeah.
I felt part of the family. I felt part of the team.
Nice.
And I was definitely, welcomed that way. And I think it's the culture of that state, It's called Minas Gerais. That's where Belo Horizonte, but Belo Horizonte, they pronounce it.
Yeah.
Is that, people are very hospitable, very warm. And I felt that. And I ended up wanting to, go there. And I ended up doing that.
Nice. Yeah. Professor Draculino is well known as like as good as it gets, right? In terms of instruction, organization, jiu-jitsu, period, right? So your intuition was probably right. Looking
it was
back.
right. Yeah, it was right for sure.
Nice.
But it didn't make sense because in Rio, right, at the time, the who's who was there as far as black belt world champions, and the who's who, the best of the best were there.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Belo Horizonte, where it was like whites and some blues, right?
Yeah.
And Draculino, of course, his knowledge and his know-how, right?
I guess that also means that you started at the ground level with them.
I did, yeah.
Built up everything there, yeah. So did you train with Professor Draculino all the way through to black belt and to like recent days, like? Or did you move around and train with different schools?
No, I stayed there. Once I went, I was there.
Yeah.
I was right all the way through black belt.
Yeah.
I came back when I was a brown belt and started my school in New Mexico.
Nice.
All the way through black belt and beyond, right till now. He's actually here in California, I think, this weekend, and so he's visiting Professor Edson.
Nice.
And the Legacy San Diego.
Yeah.
So we're for sure.
Close-knit community, yeah.
Yeah. There's because there's politics and things like that, but like if you're real, you're real. If you're true relationships, like they get through that.
So you said something that just now that I want to pick up on there, like true relationships. Like, you're living in another country, you're under the tutelage of a master, and you spend presumably a lot of time together, right? So it ends up being like, I don't know if brotherhood's the right thing or like it's mentor-mentee kind of relationship, but you end up getting really close, I'm guessing, right, to your training teammates and stuff, like Professor Edson, for example, right?
Alexandre, yeah.
Yeah, Alexandre as well, right.
They've both got to spend a lot of time here these last, like almost 10 years. Right?
Yeah.
It's been pretty cool. It's been fun.
Nice.
For the guys to get that influence and the knowledge, know the knowledge.
I've had the pleasure of meeting both of them right around graduation time. I think usually, it's likely to see Professor Alexandre here. Maybe that'll change if he becomes president of Brazil.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
2020,
He's got 2 votes.
Yeah.
2 votes from the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
But so jiu-jitsu, massive part of your life naturally, but also mixed martial arts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're also a pioneer in that space as well. How did you get involved? Like, was it from the jump? Like, did the two were just so related that you trained both, or did you at some point said, you know what, I want to punch
I never like my mom always had me do these articles for the newspapers and stuff, and just publicity because I started my school, so to kind of support that. Back in those days, people still read newspapers, right? It was before the internet and
of course
iPhones and things like that. But I did in one of the interviews, I was like, I never thought I would be fighting Vale Tudo, anything, MMA, Vale Tudo was anything goes, bare knuckle, right? And then some years passed and they put gloves and stuff like that. And they changed, the sport is a little bit different, right? Because it's a lot different for jiu-jitsu. If I can like elbow you in the back of the head, it's going to set up, you're not going to be able to resist the rear naked choke, right? You can open up your neck, I'll choke you, right? But with gloves, you can defend a lot better, right? But I never thought I would fight MMA. I never thought I would be fighting in the cage. There was a quote like I was like, I don't ever want to do that. I never thought I would be doing that.
Really? Man, you didn't just do that. You also ended up being champion of King of the Cage. Like.
Yeah. So fast forward, I got my black belt. I got my black belt in 2001.
Yeah.
And King of the Cage came to New Mexico.
Nice.
And back in those days, King of the Cage was a big deal. They were competing with UFC. UFC, of course, wasn't like the UFC today, but they were still the UFC, right? And that was the biggest organization, right? And so King of the Cage was right there. They came to New Mexico. One thing led to another. I got my black belt. I was like, hey, I want to test this jiu-jitsu stuff in the cage. And so that's how it started. And, back in the early days of, cage fighting or Vale Tudo, right? You kind of represented your martial art in the cage to show which was superior. That was the beginning of UFC. That was the beginning of like this whole thing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's popularity, right?
100%.
That's how it grew. That's how it blew up because everybody's like, I have to learn this. I have to learn this.
Yeah.
And so I contacted King of the Cage. They got me in, and I got to represent jiu-jitsu in the cage in those early days, which was really cool. So I fought in 2002 after I got my black belt. I was busy. I had a busy schedule with competing. I think like in March I did the pants, which are still like I think now in March. Then I made some other ones. I think a team, I don't know, whatever, Team Brasileiro in Brazil, and something else in May. And then June I did my first pro debut MMA, King of the Cage. And then July I did the World. So it was like always like nonstop competing, plus like teaching and stuff and having the school in New Mexico. But going back to the question, like I never thought I would fight, and then I did, and I just started with one. And then I sold a lot of tickets. And if you're a promoter, you want whoever's fighting to sell a lot of tickets. And at the beginning, for my first fight, they usually, they put me at like on the undercard. No, it's okay.
Fair enough.
Dan Severn was the main event. He fought Hoist Gracie in those early days, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so I was like, well, how much do I make? They're like, like $300. I was like, okay. I was like, but you get commission on the ticket sales. I was like, all right. And then, can I get some tickets? I was like, you have to buy them and then we'll reimburse you at the end. I was like, okay. So I put like 10 G's on a credit card of tickets and I sold them all.
Nice.
And then I got moved from the undercard to like the semi-main event instantly.
Yeah, of course, right? Because you just filled the arena.
Who's this kid, Yeah, pretty much, right? So who's this kid?
Yeah.
And so then I fought and I did well. And of course, I had a huge support group, and I was training with Greg Jackson and my school in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Shout out to my school, my students and stuff there, and then Greg Jackson. So they all came to support me. So,
fantastic.
And then they wanted me to fight again, and then of course there was no pay. I was like, it's not really maybe working out. And then they postponed it, and I was like, okay, listen, we'll give you a title fight if you fight this next card. We can't change the pay, but we'll give you a title fight if you fight this next fight. And so I did that. And the reason why was because Me and Javier Vasquez were good friends now, but he was kind of cocky with me.
Okay.
I think at that first event or one of the press events, for the leading up to that first event. And I was like, cause I'm really nice, very friendly, but he's very like kind of arrogant in a way. And so I was like, okay, all right, I'd like to fight that guy. And so the promoter knew that.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, if you fight this next fight, we'll give you a title fight.
Nice.
And so that was how it happened. I won the King of the Cage thing, and then I was kind of in. And then I, like I said, there was no money.
Yeah.
Like it was not even like there was no money. It was like a joke, right? You're losing money to
just to compete. Yeah,
just to compete, and that's okay, But like, yeah, it's too much. Like I'd rather just focus on jiu-jitsu and that.
Yeah.
So I gave up the belt, and then but it started the process,
Yeah.
And then people were messaging me because it was a big deal back in those days. It was on pay-per-view. It was competing with the UFC. I think we got, I'm not sure if it's true, but we got more views on the pay-per-view than the BJ Penn Call Luna, the second fight.
Nice.
Back in those days. But it was a big deal. It got me really hyped up in the MMA scene, considering I was just a jiu-jitsu guy, But I made it a jiu-jitsu fight, and Javi was a good grappler, right? He was a high-level jiu-jitsu and wrestler, so.
Nice. It's a good thing that jiu-jitsu is such a good base, right, for mixed martial arts, especially at that time. I bet they didn't know that you were going to sell that many tickets.
For the first event?
Yeah.
I mean, they had no idea. They did like, okay, Alberto Crane, okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they found out who I was and what I would have done. But yeah, it was definitely different, right?
That's
where
very
you
cool.
just like charge $10K on your credit card.
Yeah.
I was pretty young too, right? So just to do that,
That's very cool, man.
Some balls,
Yeah, I'll say that's pretty much the Alberto.
Well, I just knew because I was my first time fighting at home in New Mexico.
All right.
I had been competing like literally all over the world.
Yeah.
And so it was the first time for me to compete at home.
Nice.
And I had, so many students, so many friends.
Yeah.
So of course they all wanted to come out and support.
Nice.
And I was representing the state. I was representing my school. I was representing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I was representing a lot of things. And so it was a big deal.
That is so cool, man.
Feel important,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you went out there and got it too, right? You didn't just wait for things to come to you.
Yeah,
so very cool.
Yeah.
Did you know, so going back to just a little bit on your time in Brazil, did you know that Gracie Barra was like a big network, and that you would have, by way of training through it, like a connection with people around the world? Or did you already have that connection with jiu-jitsu to begin with? Or it's just like, I want to train with Professor Draculino and that was it kind of thing?
No, I went to Gracie Barra in Rio, the original school with Carlos Gracie Jr.
Yeah.
Marcia Feitosa was there at the time.
Yeah.
But Carlos Gracie Jr. And so that's where I went. And Gordo, all the OG guys, everybody, the who's who was there.
Yeah.
Oleta, Soka, Sonequinha, like all the main guys, the world champ guys,
Nice.
So they were all there. And so that's where Amal went. And then when he came back to New Mexico, when we trained in his garage, he was telling me stories about all these guys.
Yeah.
And so that's where I went first. I went to Rio de Janeiro and I went to the Gracie Barra.
Yeah.
And then I met Draculino one of the days. And then one of his students came to Rio, and then we ended up going to Belo Horizonte to visit him. And I was like, you know what? I really like it here. The way people treated me. I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna go back home right now.
Yeah.
But I'll be back in 6 months, and then I'm gonna move here.
Nice.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Professor Draculino is well known, or he's spoken, I think, on his own podcast and even on yours about, really approaching it like a full-time job, approaching it like a business, taking it very seriously, classes in the morning, classes throughout the day. How much did that have an influence on how you approached jiu-jitsu?
Back in those days, it was very like Fight Clubby.
Yeah.
Only the strong survived, and it was like very raw. It's like a lot more professional now, right?
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of different ways, right? But he was always a professional as far as showing up on time, the way he taught his classes, the way he communicated. If people had to get put in their place, he did that and clean, just his presence, he was always a professional. And that's one of the things that really gave me a great example. And I'm grateful for that. He's always, prepped his classes, did all the things that you did, acted like it was a real job, not just some hangout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Even today, like, oh, it's just a hangout. It's just that we're gonna hang out. Like, no, this is like a job. Either I'm because he was an attorney,
Yeah.
and he chose the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, the jiu-jitsu work instead of being an attorney. And if you're, you know, whatever job you do, like it's a you know, so you have to do your best. If you're going to be successful, you have to work hard, and that's what he did with with jiu-jitsu the same way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And he was a great example for all of us just to see that. And if whoever was going to choose to do that, to take this path of, you know, being having jiu-jitsu as a profession, like he was, I don't think there's a better person that you could choose than him.
Nice. I feel like that's very much your approach as well. Like obviously you're very successful with jiu-jitsu as your lifestyle, or as at least the foundation for a lot of, you know, your business ventures and everything. But it's like you're fun, and you know, you're fun to hang out with and to chat with, but you're kind of also all business. You know what I mean? Like you're somebody that comes, and when you're teaching, you're all about teaching. And when you're, you know, whether it's the podcast or the other businesses that you're involved in, you know, so I think like, I don't know if that was maybe already your personality, but it was if it was probably amplified by that time there.
You know, I come from a really good family. I have to, you know, family, they're all like just really hardworking. They're really smart. They're all really successful. And so I just growing up, like seeing that, like my mom's parents, just like, you know, like I'm not gonna be some just martial artist. I'm gonna do well. I'm gonna you know, do well in every aspect.
Nice.
I'm not gonna just be some starving. I remember somebody saying like, starving artist.
Starving artist, yeah.
And starving martial artist. Like I can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to be.
Right.
And it was yeah.
I
love jiu-jitsu, and I believe in jiu-jitsu in people's lives for all ages.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be. I can do that. I can do my best there, and I can if I can have a good life, right?
Yeah. I like that. Tell me a little bit actually about, so you say I love jiu-jitsu and I believe in it. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like in terms of jiu-jitsu, whether it's as a lifestyle or as, you know, an education, and how, you know, why do you say I love jiu-jitsu and I believe in it?
Because why do I love jiu-jitsu? Oh, I loved it. I love it for, I mean, so many aspects. Like when I first started, the way it made me feel, the confidence it gave me, the results I got in my body, my physique, my mindset, like true confidence, right? On all aspects spiritually, right? And then later on, when I became a teacher, just the results I've gotten from students and just, you know, people I've been able to influence through that, you know, and you see it from little kids to like we have Savage, who's like 80, and man, like talk about purpose and believing in this way of life. Like it's such a blessing. Like I would do it for free. And when the pandemic happened, I was, you know, I was ready to do a 9 to 5 and then, you know, have somebody open up during the day and then, you know, me teach at night, you know, just because I believe in this for the community, you know, for people, for humanity.
100%. Yeah. I feel like we're all working on some part of ourselves when we're here, but we're not doing it alone, you know, like we're doing it with our colleagues in class and they're working on some aspect of themselves. And that could just be the technique of the day, or it's actually like, you know, something internal or both. And we find that on the mat, you know, like regardless of body weight differences or where you're from differences, like those kind of are not important, you know, as much, which is, you know, part of the reason why I keep coming back as well. Like it's an amazing space, right?
Yeah.
So at one point you decided to make the move to Southern California, right? And so you were still in New Mexico when you fought for King of the Cage. What brought you to Los Angeles?
Well, I met my wife, Deet, I met her like back in 2000. I did this Hickson Gracie tournament and we just met and we stayed friends, and, you know, I wasn't Armenian. And so, you know, she thought she was going to marry an Armenian and, you know, the culture and all that. And I don't know, somehow we really got along and the years went by, and then one thing led to another. She changed her mind and I don't know. You know, she ended up moving out to New Mexico. You know, we got engaged and got married, and she moved out to New Mexico. And then she's like, you know, once we have kids, like she wants our kids to be around her huge family, right?
Nice.
And the culture, right? And so that's pretty much how it happened. I followed through on my word, my end. She moved out there, but then once she got pregnant, we ended up moving here to Glendale.
Amazing. Like basically Armenia.
Yeah. And so all of her family is here, pretty much almost all of her family's here. And it's really great for our kids, right? Because they have all this family around, growing up with all their cousins and the culture. It's very unique and special. Very grateful for that. I think it's the values, right, that really define, like who you are, right?
Absolutely.
And so I've been married and been in the Armenian culture for so long that I feel very connected, and like, to get my Armenian better, I can know basic commands and words, but I need to really be more fluent by this point. But I feel very connected from kids to just everybody, the cultures, and I understand very well.
There was some
and I appreciate all those values, those deep family values.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. There ended up being some pretty successful mixed martial arts fighters that are Armenian that were fighting out of Glendale as well, which I'm sure that ended up being friends with you or rivals, maybe, like Manny Gamburian.
No, they were all training partners. I was friends with the Armenian guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
They helped me train, and I'm friends with all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. How different was it when you got here to like today, basically, in terms of just the jiu-jitsu scene in Los Angeles? Because it's kind of like you alluded to earlier, it's kind of the Mecca now, right? Like there's Texas, there's of course Brazil, but Southern California has got a lot of jiu-jitsu.
So how was it back in 2007 was when 2007 or no? Yeah, 2007 is when I moved here.
Okay.
My son was born that year. There wasn't that much jiu-jitsu. Vander Braga was in this area. He was like legit, lineage, black belt, competitor, fighter. He also fight MMA. But besides him, there wasn't too many people. And then actually I wasn't sure if I was going to do another school.
Really?
Yeah, when I first moved here.
Okay.
Because I was like, that's a lot of work. I'm not going to be home at nighttime with my kids. Do I really want to do this, And then some people found me. I don't know how, but I did a few privates here and there. And then actually taught jiu-jitsu at just random gyms like a couple times a week. And one of those gyms was just because people like knew me and they asked me to do it. I was at the Muay Thai gym I used to train at, City of Tong.
Okay.
Andy was from there, and like pretty much all of our coaches, our Muay Thai coaches, were from there. And he asked me to do a jiu-jitsu class random time, like 10 a.m. in the morning. Okay. And then it filled up. And then they can do it 2 times a week, sure. And then we did it 3 times a week, sure.
Nice.
And they were all full. And then like about 6 months later, I took the guys to a tournament, and like 5 guys out of the 6 guys got first place.
Nice.
And if I wasn't sure that I wanted to do a school, like after that moment, I was like, okay, I got to do it again.
Yeah.
There were some good guys like Akko. Akko was in.
Oh yeah, Akko Harper. Yeah. Of course.
Like Orlando Sanchez was in that group.
Yeah.
There was quite a few guys that like really followed through to their black belt, and it was really rewarding. And I was like, man, I have to. I guess I'm okay at this. I'm pretty good at this, and so I got back into it, and
nice.
Got going again.
Yeah, and from there to basically like, I don't even know how many black belts.
I did those classes for free. Too, by on top of it,
Yeah.
Because I love it, and I was like, yeah, for sure, it's an honor. I love teaching. I would do it for free, right? But things cost. So everybody has to,
gotta live.
Yeah, for sure. But I love it.
Did you ever imagine that it would be this successful when you got into it? Like you say, you would do it for free and for sure, but also, you clearly have, I think probably the right approach in terms of like you're very laser focused, like you said, like you're determined when you set an objective. You very much, at least you give off, you're very much the type of person that goes after it, right? 100%, giving your best. And like you said, so despite that, being a recipe for success in and of its own, like, did you ever imagine it would become what it is
honestly,
today?
like I've had moments where I'm traveling and I come back and kind of like, humbly be like, wow, this is crazy. This is like really, it's a dream place, right?
Yep.
With everything that we have, from the jiu-jitsu to the Muay Thai, I mean, listen, we have the Ultimate Fighter TV show, fight posters, not fight posters, the fighters, like their glove, whatever, the uniforms. We have that on our wall here.
Yeah.
You know, besides that, the Muay Thai, the tack fit, right? But just, and then the cafe. Now we have Revive with the recovery things.
Yeah.
With the stretching and the cold plunge and the saunas. And yeah, man, like it's everything that I would want, right, to do, and that I do.
Yeah.
Here and in a good environment, right, where you like, it's kind of like an ecosystem in a way, right, where you never want to, you don't need to leave. Right?
Yeah.
You have visitors that come from out of town and they just end up staying here all day long.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's true. Come to think of it, like you can get your breakfast across the way, you can train
next door, right at the cafe.
Yeah. And then just kind of
Jungle Cafe. Yeah.
Take a shower, hang out, do a cold plunge if you want, you know, even get some therapy, like do another class, you know what I mean?
Take a nap on those recovery chairs, the compression, right?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Get a wrestling class in and or a boxing class.
Yeah.
Just nice.
Yeah.
That's interesting from a a modern day business perspective. Like it's the ideal of, let's say, like any platform, any app, right? That it's the single service window. You go there and you can get everything you need from there. And that's kind of technically what you've built here, but brick and mortar, right? Like actual physical place where
it's kind of surreal. Yeah. Even with our podcast, you know, we just cracked 400,000 subscribers, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, it's just started with 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have is it 340, something like that? More than that now, almost 350 podcasts in the thing. And it's connection, right? It's like the same, along the same line that we do in all the fronts. It's not separate. It's all the same. Yeah. We're all doing the same mission, you know, for everybody to be their best and have a way we all need connection, right? We all need to have that. And so it's another way, another avenue to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell during the graduation, right, ceremony, which is the entire wall, I think, and most of the room is lined with black belts.
Yeah.
That, is already very impressive. But all the other students that are there, there's really that community feeling, right? And even if you're not getting a belt, you want to go because you want to see your friends getting their belts and be a part of this community.
Yeah. You know? Like Professor Thomas, he got his 4th degree on his black belt, and he's been in the game, man, for 25, 30 years probably, right? And it's I'm really humbled. I'm really honored, you know, to just these guys. They value, they understand, right? They understand. They've been around for a long time, and they value and they see what we have here at Legacy. You know what I mean? Yeah. They see what we have, and they're with it, right? This is the way. Yeah. This is the way. They've been to everybody. I've been to probably every gym, every place, and people want to be a part of this. You know, so we're doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Is there a trick or no, not a trick, but is there how do you make sure that kind of stays the vibe and stays the way through future generations? Presumably, right?
I mean, we're constantly working on stuff, systems, and just protocols or whatever you want to call it, whatever the words, playbooks, you know. Yeah. Just training and putting those things down on paper. But more than anything, I think it's the example you set, right? And then people copy that example. Yeah. And then of course making those things maybe more concrete by writing them down. Yeah. Right. So you have standards and you have expectations, and those things are clear. So I think that's where we're at, you know. But I think number one is the example, and then not just mine, but we have lineage. We have people that are doing the same thing. Absolutely. Even when I'm not here, it's it should be the same. It's not going to be the same, but should be the same. Yeah. Right. We all want the same best. I mean, look, we're even sitting down, we're talking, and we're doing the same thing that I feel like that I do every day. Right? Yeah. Yeah. In a different way, different format, but it's the same thing. Yeah. Absolutely. We want to help others. We want to give stuff that's valuable for them, right? And help them in some capacity.
I think I felt that when I walked through the door the first time. It was actually Professor Anthony giving a class here, because I didn't get a chance to meet you until a little bit later. At the beginning,
the first
different schedules,
6 months or something.
Yeah, something like that. And but the vibe was exactly as you described, right? People were helpful. There was good hard training, But it also felt like a safe environment for developing skills, right? And I came with a little bit of baggage from, learning in Canada. So I needed to feel comfortable, I think, right? Before I could really kind of open up and I guess it's kind of
Feel
like
welcome.
anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of the family, right?
Yeah. And then that kind of organically...
Or know that you want to be part of this family, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that just kind of organically developed over time. But I immediately, like, as soon as I opened the doors, I felt like, oh, this is a welcoming space, So I think I can safely say you've succeeded in creating that, which is really awesome.
Thank you.
So speaking of, good segue, speaking of like maybe just the business side, you've turned into like quite a leader, in fact, in terms of like there's a number of legacies now beyond what is presently HQ, right? Burbank. So yeah, tell me a little bit about how you got to, because I think at first it was maybe in Encino that was the like central location.
No, it was the first school though that I started because I had a private student that wanted to train with me. He moved to Calabasas. He got a big house in Calabasas. He was like an investment banker guy. I lived in, of course, Glendale. And so they're like, all right, that's like halfway. It's in between our houses, right? That could work. And that's how it started. And then the second one was Pasadena. Then it changed. There were legacies, and then it changed the name to Gracie Barra. And then we ended up opening up, like 6 Gracie Barras. I started working with the guy in the Gracie Barra Association. Yeah. And we ended up doing that. And man, we had 6 schools, and it made me like really realize why I do it, what's important to me. And for me, that what's important is the relationships. Yeah. Seeing you grow, seeing you get good, seeing you become better. That's everything to me. And that's what motivates me to come in every day. Nice. And once I was kind of like in front of the computer, managing those kinds of things and not on the mat, I was like, you know what? I'd rather do something else if this is what I'm going to be doing, having all these schools. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get out of all these schools and I'm just going to be in one. Okay. Yeah. And so that one was here in Burbank. Nice. Because it's close to my house. Right. It's like a few minutes from my house, Glendale, Burbank, right? There's this part. So I ended up just focusing on Burbank for a lot of years, So at one point, you decided to switch basically and focus all of your attention on one single location, right? Yeah. Here in Burbank, we focused on Burbank, and I got out of all of them. One of my students, Mark Bradford, we had a gym in Hollywood, so it was like out of Hollywood. I was like all over the valley, and with Pasadena, we had West Woodland Hills. Encino, Hollywood, right in it was like Sunset and Highland Boulevard, right? Like a block away from where they have the Oscars, right? Right. They were really good locations too. Baldwin Park, we had one. But yeah, like I said, it made me realize what's important to me. And what's important to me is the relationships and seeing people get good. And if I don't have that, I'm not going to be happy. You don't want to manage at a distance. Yeah, I want to be a part. Yeah. I don't mind. Working hard, like I enjoy working hard. I enjoy working hard towards something that I believe in. Yeah. And for me, this is something I 100%, 1000% believe in. Right. Yeah. This way of life, this way of doing things. But for me, I need to feel like I need to be part of people's lives. Yeah. Yeah. From our little kids to our all ages. Yeah. And there's all of that happening here. Like literally, I think the earliest is maybe. The tiny cranes are 3 and 4, right? Yeah. And then all the way up. There were 2 back in the day, and like, hey, Erica was like, maybe the 3 is better. So we have 3. Yeah, some kids, we have some 2-year-olds sometimes. Nice. Yeah. Depending on the 2-year-old. If they're big, yeah, of course. Yeah, or maybe they're like mature, Yeah. Nice. And then all the way to, you mentioned Professor Savage, I think is he in his 80s at this point? He's like late 78, yeah. Right? Yeah. So that is like, that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about some of the other businesses that you're involved in. One of them is... So those schools were Gracie Barra gyms, right? And so I stayed here in Legacy. I just stayed in Burbank, Yeah. And Legacy in Burbank. And then I didn't want to do like another school. My wife was like, no, so we just stayed here. And then actually George, George Bonilla, one of our black belts here.
Yeah.
Great guy. Wanted to do a school in Glendale. He taught here for 10 years plus, right? And so, I don't want to say no, right? So I allowed him to do it. And then one thing led to another, and fast forward. Well, the pandemic happened, and I turned that gym into Gracie Barra, right?
Yeah.
And the landlord came knocking on the door here. He's like, "Hey, would you be interested in the space?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh, they haven't paid rent for like I don't know how long." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" So I went to go check out the place. Actually, I went to go talk to the guy first.
Yeah.
And he's like this karate master. He beat Chuck Norris every time he fought him back in the 70s.
Hey,
right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I ended up talking to him for like 10. I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes, but I ended up talking for like 2 hours.
Nice.
And I was like, all right, I have to go back to that school. And so I started the Pasadena school, and that was really like all right, I'm going to do this, and I partnered up with Brian, one of the black belts, and because it's like I don't need it, I don't need it, but I want to see everybody do good and grow, and so that's how it happened, and then we have more now. We have the Malibu. We have of course Mark Bradford. He was the West Adams, right?
Yep.
He's been my student since New Mexico.
Amazing.
For 25 years.
Nice.
I used to drive up from Albuquerque. He was in the military. He actually took over the Hollywood school.
Yeah.
When I got out of all of them, he's like, "Man, would you?" I just told him that I wanted to get out of all of them. We're very like direct, and he called me up like a month later. He's like, "Hey man, I was thinking about that." I was like, I was thinking like I could retire out of my government job. He was in the Department of Energy.
Okay. Yeah.
Like security. I'm not sure exactly what he did, right? But he guys like, I'm gonna just cash in and jump into this because he grew up around here. He grew up in Atwater Village.
Oh, nice.
And he took over the Hollywood school, and then I just stayed in Burbank, right? And like Ricky, Anthony, like Andrea, Monica, Brian, so many great black belts came out of that school. He's an amazing teacher.
Nice.
Really knowledgeable. And yeah, great person.
Yeah.
So it just kind of started, and so we are. And of course, First Assassin started the Malibu. We have a legacy in Armenia. I've been going there for 10 years, right? So in Yerevan, Andre, Hartunian, they're doing really well. They're like one of the top like competitor teams. The kids, adults,
Nice.
A really good school. He's doing a great job there. And just try to support the family, right? The legacy family.
Absolutely.
I don't need it just want to support, and have us grow. And I do believe like we all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And it's the best. And, it's a very organic thing.
Nice.
I'm not planning to, world domination, this, that. Like, no, I just want to support the guys, and whatever happens with that happens.
Yeah. Well, you've obviously planted these seeds in very fertile ground. Like, people are, I think, attracted for all the reasons that you mentioned, right? To the energy, to the family, and that naturally it can only grow, right?
Yeah.
And at some point it grew to involve TacFit, and that's become a big part of your philosophy and your life, right? I see that it's a very successful program. It seems to fit really organically with jiu-jitsu and the community and stuff. Can you maybe just give me a little bit of like an idea of how that came across in your life?
So Scott Sana is the creator of TacFit and the world's smartest workout. And he helped me for one of my UFC fights.
Okay.
I got tired in my fight. He's like, "Man, you're over breathing, this and that." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he showed me all these different things that, I had the top trainers in the world of, and I never had heard things that he talked about. And one of the things was, I was training with him. Like somebody suplexed me before a fight.
Okay.
And I was really hurt. My neck was really hurt. And, usually it's 4 to 6 weeks. There's pain pills involved, probably, maybe even talk about surgery, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Let me just do these movements." And I was like, "Okay, every time you're in pain, just do these movements." And I did that, and I got better pretty much in a week.
Nice.
And it was that one thing that I never forgot. I was like, "Man, I have to eventually I have to like really learn this, This is back in like 2007.
Okay.
So,
nice.
Is that 18 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's something that I never forgot. It had such a big influence on me. big impact on me that I never forgot. And I was always wanting to go to a place, but there was never really a gym, a TAC Fit gym.
Yeah.
So Scott Stoner, the founder, the creator of TAC Fit, he was always really helpful. Anyway, long story short, I was diagnosed with MS in 2012 for a routine fight MRI. They do these brain, MRIs, and they found these lesions, or they found it before they let me fight in the UFC, but the lesions grew. And so they're like, "Oh, sorry, you can't fight anymore. This and that." I was like, "Can I still do jiu-jitsu?" Like, sure. I guess there's no punches to the head. And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I focused on jiu-jitsu. I went on the spiritual journey, and I really, I don't know. I have a long story, but like I kind of was like a spiritual journey, and I was like, "Man, I can win." I had some moments where like the power of the mind, what the power of the mind can do. And fast forward to that, I competed for a bunch of years, like pretty like every month almost, because I was like, what if I can't do this in 6 months? So I'm gonna go out on my shield. And after I did my this last tournament, it was in Spain. I went to the TAC certification in Washington State.
Nice.
With Scott.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. I got a second chance to do this. And then I started to feel myself, even after the weekend, feeling better, because everything hurt in my body.
Yeah.
Every joint in my body hurt. I had a lot of issues. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't speaking correctly. I had a lot of issues, You just like kind of like, I'm okay. Like, but I wasn't. I had no mobility. I couldn't even put the seatbelt in my car on because everything hurt. I could still win tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments, but I wasn't doing well. Yeah, I wasn't doing well.
Right.
Physically, mentally, everything, fatigued all the time. Anyway, I went to the TAC Fit cert. I was like, wow, this feels like it's really good for me.
Yeah.
And so I started like doing it. Robert Miller, he was, trying to find a place to do it. And I started learning. We started, talking about it. We started, basically implementing the TAC Fit stuff.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another. And I just wanted to keep studying and learning. And so I went to all these certifications all around the world. Yeah. Met with the top guys, Italy, Spain, the best guys in the system. They were very smart too, right? And I started getting better and better and better,
Amazing.
I was dreaming. Everything was coming back online. Just from this movement practice, and everybody that I show the things to, the same thing happens. Yeah. It's a recovery-based system, and it's just all the right things that everybody needs to do, even if you don't do martial arts. It just makes you, live your best life. Yeah. Just with all the things that we do, like we use the club bells, it's the principles behind all those things, right? Yeah. All the tools. And it changed my life. It gave me my life back. I was like I said, I was in pain. I was like not doing well at all. And it gave me like a whole new breath and a whole new deeper understanding of jiu-jitsu and how things work. And I remember like Henry Akins came here. He's like I think Hicks and Gracie's top black belts.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And or teachers at least, right? And he came and was teaching all these like invisible jiu-jitsu things, concepts, right? But it's all like TAC Fit things. We all know these things, like the false grip, like the base, just all these different things. It's all part of the structure of TAC Fit. Nice. And so like Elliot and different people were like, oh, it's TAC Fit. It's TAC Fit. People that do TAC Fit, oh, it's TAC Fit. Yeah. It's not like something that's like so different, right? We do it every day. And so, man, I just always say it's like, one, it prevents injuries. Yeah. It helps you recover from injuries, but more so like it improves your performance because you understand your body better. Makes you more intuitive with your body, and helps you, learn better, and performance increases your performance. Amazing. And don't we all want that? If you're not doing jiu-jitsu, we have people that don't do jiu-jitsu or martial arts here, and they come and do TAC Fit. Because it works. It makes you better. You feel better throughout the day. You feel better just on life. Yeah. And man,
that's amazing. Is it crazy how we can be completely disconnected from our own bodies.
And we don't realize it. We just keep going. We go through our lives. We're kind of numb to that. We just accept, right? But it's, what if there is better ways, right? And luckily I have a little bit of that mindset, right? To improve myself and grow. And is there a better way, right? And so TAC Fit definitely is that way. It goes so well with jiu-jitsu, but even if you don't do jiu-jitsu, it's amazing. Yeah. Man, it's really, everybody should do it. I love jiu-jitsu. Not everybody can do jiu-jitsu,
Of course,
but everybody can do tac fit. Everybody should be doing tac fit.
Nice.
And my mission, I guess, is my mission is to have everybody know about tac fit and to practice it. Because once you do it, you're like, why didn't I do this before? It's kind of like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. 100%.
And you're never too old. It's a fountain of youth, right? If you keep moving in all these different ways, it helps you, like I said, recovering all those things, but just prevents like aging, you know?
Yeah.
You can be 80 years old and you can be doing better than a 25-year-old.
Yeah, 100%. I heard somewhere a long time ago that, you stop moving and you die, basically. And it's kind of like...
pretty much, you know, your quality of life goes down.
Yeah.
Once you start losing your mobility, being able to move, right?
Yeah.
It's a downward spiral. Spiral. It's going to go fast too.
100%. I feel like, I know that you've also incorporated a portion of the cool down in your noon class.
Yeah.
Is tac fit inspired as well, right?
For sure. It's all part of the concepts, right? Of how to train properly.
Yeah.
Right. We do our interflow. It's our more joint mobility stuff, right? Most people don't know how to move their joints. We do some kind of activation. We do the protocol, the training, which is around 20 minutes usually. Yeah. And then we do the cool down at the end, compensation, you can call it, where we turn off all the muscles that we use or turn on our, not to get too technical, our parasympathetic nervous system, the recovery nervous system on. Yeah. Turn that sympathetic, the fight or flight nervous system off, right? And start that recovery process. And people like, oh, thank you so much. I feel better throughout the day after doing that. It's only a few minutes, right? It's only like maybe 6 minutes, 7 minutes the most, right? Nice. Around 5 minutes though. So that's all we need.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The right way, doing it the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of my favorite parts of the class, honestly. Like especially after some hard rolls, you know what I mean? Like you cool down.
And like, listen, like I'm one of the guys, like I'm guilty, It was until all these things happened that I was like, I need to do it. And I kind of got focused on it, right? Right. For like the young guys or whoever. But it's here when you need it. Yeah. And everybody should do it. And it's just do it. Just start it. Just start moving, start compensating, just get in the habit of doing those things. Yeah. Because you're going to be much better for it.
Nice. Yeah. So
I promise that. I promise. I guarantee it.
Yeah, like where do we sign up, basically?
just do it. Just do it. Yeah, just do it. Yeah. Nice. It's the way,
And you referred to a few schools. Like that's a community in and of its own as well, right? Like they've Barcelona, Italy. It's all over the world.
We call it Tac Fit Legion or Worldwide Tac Fit Legion. Yeah. And we have communities all over around the world. Brazil, Costa Rica, Mexico, around the U.S. Nice. Europe, Italy, Spain, Germany, Netherlands. I mean, you name it. Asia, Taiwan, China. They're doing certifications around the world. Amazing. So it's just cool. And just growing and Yeah. I've been doing gyms, right? So I'd love to see more of these communities. These it can be tac fit gyms. If you don't do jiu-jitsu, just tac fit gyms. I feel like that's the way. That's the way for people to really benefit from the tac fit, right? It's the best way. I know this. I know the community, like having a community where you come into jiu-jitsu. Sure, you can train in somebody's garage. You can, practice techniques, but it's different. It's a lot better, right?
Well, of course.
Being in a big group and having this community behind you, it's so helpful. Right? Yeah. It's so helpful for the longevity.
Yeah, absolutely.
To stay in it, to stay consistent, to get better, right? And you can learn from each other and tac fit, just like jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah.
It's interesting because, I've had the pleasure of chatting with a few of your black belts, in fact, right? Some of your students, including Uday and Professor Erica, Anthony, and they all have a similar mindset when it comes to aging and grappling and, being able to continue doing what we love to do, right? And I really feel like you've found that through this marriage between tac fit and jiu-jitsu, or even just tac fit on its own. Like it's
if you're not a martial artist.
Yeah, very cool. Great. What a great segue then to talk about modern jiu-jitsu industry, right? Like I feel as though you would agree, but of course, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it's exploded, like in the recent maybe 10, 15 years, right? Like jiu-jitsu scene has gotten so much bigger. ADCC has gotten bigger. Other organizations, of course, IBJJF has been around for a very long time. That's also gotten bigger, but other competitions have come up, No-gi is really, we had the Fight Pass Invitational just yesterday or the day before, right? Women grappling matches are like main event, pay-per-view type things nowadays. What's your take on today's grappling scene? Like, do you like it? Do you like where it's going? Do you think it's just like an organic maybe progression from where it comes from, or like what's your take on grappling today?
Man, like I went to the ADCC, not this last year, but the year before, 2 years before that.
Yep.
The first one they had at the UNLV, the Thomas Mack Center.
Yeah.
I had got stem cells with Mo, the promoter, right, of ADCC.
Mm-hmm.
And man, like from what it was, like he was like, man, you got to come, like, because I went to the one in Anaheim the 2 years before that, and he's like, man, this time we're not gonna pull any stops, like putting all the bells and whistles. We have the Bruce Buffer announcing, we have the Pride announcer, we have uniforms, we have all these fireworks, everything.
Amazing.
I was like, cool. And I sat there the whole weekend, and I watched all the matches, and it was beautiful, and I got emotional, man. I remembered in 2000 in Vegas. This was the ADCC was in Vegas. I remember in 2000, so 2023, so 23 years before, the first grappling tournament was no gi. It was called Grappler's Quest.
Yeah, I've heard of Grappler's Quest.
And so the Tap Out guys were there. If anybody remembers the Tap Out guys, the Tap Out brand,
Yep.
They were there selling stuff out of their car, and it was at a high school.
Like in a gym type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, in the high school gym. People came from all over the Southwest, like to compete.
Yeah,
and they had a prize. It was like $1,000, and who's who was in it. And, and it's really beautiful to see how far it's come. And props to Mo and everybody else that's pushing the boundaries and making the sport grow. Like the CGI even was it this year or like the year before?
Yeah.
Last year was the same day.
Yeah.
And I was kind of bummed out. I remember when Kevin told me, I was like, why the same day? Why does it have to be the same day? And then I started seeing him with the videos of blowing up, spraying ADCC on the car in Ukraine, blowing it up with the bazooka, and just all these like crazy videos. And I was like, oh man, this is so good for the sport. It's getting eyes on the sport, and it's making it fun. It's making it like almost an entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, it's good for the sport, I felt like a loyalty to Mo. I just know how hard they work to get the hype behind the ADCC, or get the attention, right? Get the eyes and stuff on it.
Of course.
So it's kind of like, why do you have to try to hurt that, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, it's only good for the sport, and I was like, wow, this is really great. And so that's how the no-gi kind of thing has been exploding, and it's been great. And they have now the UFC Fight Pass, the ONE FC. They have all these different avenues for people to make money. I remember back in the day, like there's a tournament with $1,000 or $500. Like, everybody goes there, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So it's amazing to see that. And then a couple years back, the Master Worlds, right? Like say, the gi is dead, or all these hype videos. But honestly, man, like the Master Worlds, I think it's the biggest tournament. Those are the people that fund all those CGIs and ADCC. It's those people, the practitioners, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so if it wasn't for the Master Worlds and these IBJJF tournaments, there wouldn't be it's all connected, right?
Yeah.
It's all connected, and it's amazing that there's all these avenues now for people to compete and to get titles and win and make a living from it, right? Even as a competitor, which there wasn't when I was younger, right? We had to fight MMA, not that there was that much money in that, right? But it's amazing, man. It's really cool. Really exciting. They have sponsors and that's cool. But anyway, going back to the gi, or going to the Master Worlds.
Yeah.
I remember going to the IBGF? I'm not sure, but I was at the convention center.
The Jiu-Jitsu Con, right?
It was I think even before the Jiu-Jitsu Con, the Master Worlds was in Vegas, and it was at the main convention center.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was like the front and center place, and I was like, wow, we made it, we did it, we're here, we're at because I remember going to other sports, and they're at the the convention center, and now jiu-jitsu's there, besides all the no-gi stuff, but that was before even those ADCCs, but like jiu-jitsu's here, and wow, it's amazing, man. It's feel honored. And, you know, like I was saying, when I watched the ADCC, some of the guys getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was like, wow, I'm really proud just to been a part of it.
Yeah.
Seeing the growth and, you know, whatever capacity I've been, you know, been a part of over the years, you know.
Of course.
It's amazing.
That's very cool. Yeah, I feel as though
I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be cool, especially having accompanied it for the entire art form and lifestyle for as many years as you have too, to see it come all the way here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is cool. And hopefully it just keeps growing, right? Like,
I think it will. I think it will, because it really is a beautiful lifestyle, especially if it's done right, you know, and adding, like, of course, like these recovery components and the tactful kind of things to the training. Like we should never stop, you know. I mean, Gracie didn't, right?
Yeah.
Till the end. So that's my intention with you guys, with the students and our community, and you know, that's doing our best, right? And, in this training and this lifestyle.
Nice.
Yeah, being a good example for our families and staying healthy, and our spouses, or, you know, our family, just to see, like, being happy, right? Being a good person, just makes you a better person too, right?
100%. Things
aren't so as bad as they are, no matter what happens, right?
Yeah.
Some 300-pound guy on top of you in side control, like, you know what? It's all good.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
This isn't as bad as that, you know?
Exactly. My deadline is not as bad as, you know, for my project or whatever. It's not like,
Or you're under stress and you come in and you forget all about it.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
Having seen, like, you know, basically, I don't want to say the early days, but like earlier on to where it's at now, what's your take on, like, jiu-jitsu technique? Like, do you think technique is getting better? Do we go in cycles maybe, and then we go like
cycles? We go in cycles, but just things from I mean, even 10 years ago, just things move a lot faster because we see things instantly on flow. Grappling, I mean, my daughter's wrestling, like I'm full wrestling, we're watching instantly, the matches go online. So you're constantly studying stuff and you can see it, just information moves a lot faster.
Right.
So you can learn a lot faster.
Right. All right. Yeah. You really had to go get that information from the source back in the day.
Right. You had to, like, go to Brazil. Yeah, exactly. Craziness. You had to get VHS tapes.
Yeah.
I don't even know if people know what VHS tapes are.
100%.
You know?
Well,
I had to find a guy with the trunk in his trunk. He had VHS tapes in his trunk. I'd buy him from him. To break it down, or record Sport TV where they had jiu-jitsu matches. Anyway,
hell yeah, absolutely.
A lot different than now, where you can instantly, you know, see the techniques happening, or even before, right? They're in the tournament with all the streaming services, the training, the reels, on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's, you know, doing either technique of the week or whatever it is, you know, and breakdowns of the fights. Grappling Monthly, right? Yeah. You talk about VHS tapes, and it's just, you know, it's close to my heart because a friend of mine, shout out Alexandre Bourdon, he was learning editing in high school. And so he had access to a machine that was like literally the size of like a small fridge. Yeah. Right. And then you had 2 slots for the cassettes, and he could basically cut and paste, for lack of a better term.
Back in those days,
right?
Yeah.
So we ended up with, thanks to him, we ended up with a VHS cassette of only fight scenes of all of our favorite movies.
Wow.
Right? So we would just we would hang out, and that was the fight tape. Like, this is before UFC.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So we touched on, you know, like longevity in the sport, which is something that I think is, as we get older, those of us that are fortunate enough to be healthy and get older, or even those that might be, you know, like have health issues, the ability to continue to train, to continue to move is so important. Do you feel like what's your take on cross training? Like, let's say somebody wants to dedicate sometime, maybe they're a little bit younger, they want to compete, or even if they're older and they want to compete. Do you recommend that they spend like all of their time strictly, if they want to compete in jiu-jitsu, do they do primarily jiu-jitsu, or is it a good idea to get like a little bit of wrestling or a little bit of judo? Or how do you feel about like just grappling arts in general? Like, is jiu-jitsu basically like all you need? Is it enough, or do you need to kind of...
man, like, listen, like, do we have wrestling here at the gym?
Of course we do, yeah.
Do we have judo here at the gym?
Yeah, of course we do, yeah.
So, you know, man, like, back in the day, like UFC, like, yeah, you could win with jiu-jitsu. But now, like, UFC, like, you have to know everything. Yeah. So I think grappling and jiu-jitsu, it's evolved, right? You have to know leg locks. You have to know takedowns, wrestling, judo, whatever.
Yeah.
If it's gi or no gi, like you have to learn all those things to be the best that you can be, especially if you're competing, you know?
Yeah.
Listen, you can have tactics and you know, you can win with, you know, being better at jiu-jitsu than anybody else. That's fine too. But I think, I don't know, I think the right way is to be complete, you know, as a practitioner. Be a complete, you know, grappler. And that means gi and no gi.
Yep.
That means, you know, having your takedowns down, having your leg locks down, having your, you know, all the positions, you know, down.
Yeah.
I think that's mastery, and I think that's what we should all be striving for.
It's the never-ending journey at this point, right?
Yeah, and it should never stop, right?
Never
stop learning.
I feel like it's an ecosystem with, like you referred to an ecosystem here, which it really is. And it is not only in the recovery aspect and stuff, but it's also all, like, pretty much the main forms of grappling are available here as well. So you don't even, you know.
Yeah. What was the question that you asked me originally?
Well, originally I'm you know, curious on your take basically on whether in order to be an effective competitor in jiu-jitsu nowadays, do you need to kind of cross-train other grappling arts?
Yeah, and you know, another thing too that's what I was gonna say is Scott Sonnen, the TACFIT, the creator. He always said something to me because, you know, doing other things, because maybe it's not just the other martial arts or those kinds of things, but your strength and conditioning shouldn't get in the way of your sport. For example, if you're doing CrossFit, it's its own sport. Yeah. So that's why TACFIT, it just helps you become better at your sport.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Because CrossFit takes a toll. Like,
well, I did it too, but
did you?
I got certified the whole thing because there wasn't a TACFIT gym.
Got it.
Here, so I went and did that. And I tried to do TACFIT things, but it's like the philosophy is different, and it's its own sport. Yeah, and that's okay. It's cool. Yeah, it was fun, but it's not like health first, you know, like TACFIT. And like I said, TACFIT helps you become better at your sport. And my sport, my lifestyle is this, you know. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. All right, awesome. Tell me about the programs at Legacy Burbank. What you know, services and programs that you offer here? So to find us, just go to legacybjj.com. All our information is there, like our HQ, our Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena is on there, and then of course you can, depending where you're at, we have the gyms in Malibu, we have West Adams, Northridge, right? Depending where San Diego now, right? San Diego, Armenia, right? Yeah, but legacybjj.com. You can find out about Legacy Los Angeles on Instagram. Of course, you can follow my YouTube or my personal things, Alberto Crane. And then the programs that we have here at Legacy in Burbank here is, of course, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Adults, like we have classes more early morning, mid-morning, afternoon, evening. We have kids classes mainly after school, right? So 3:30, 4:30, pretty much all afternoon. After school. So little kids, you know, to teenagers, right? We have Muay Thai, kids and adults, right? Nice. Yep. We have TACFIT, and then we have wrestling. Nice. We have judo. And we have Brissa Joey, Kettle Jitsu, movement with kettlebells, his own special take and technique, you know. We have that as well, you know. So we have a really complete, not only just gym, but our schedule is, I think, is one of the biggest I've ever seen, like anywhere. And I've got a lot of compliments, you know, from people traveling different places. Like our gym is very world class, even though it maybe doesn't seem like it's that big of a gym. But once you come in here, you're like, wow, this is very unique and very special, and it feels at home, right? When you walk in here, 100%, you feel welcome. So I think I'm most proud of that. Yeah, it feels like your house, you know. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Literally, I think every hour of the day almost there's something going on, right? So yeah, come be a part of it. And 7 days a week, right? 7 days a week, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Professor, I want to thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, my pleasure. To chat with me, you know. And fledgling, starting, you know, like really kind of baby steps in the podcast space. So to have, you know, the opportunity to hang out with you and get to know you a little bit better and chat in this format, I really appreciate it. Yeah, my pleasure. And we're going to continue living the jiu-jitsu TACFIT lifestyle. That's right? That's it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, brother. My pleasure. Thank you, brother.